Oh, this is going to be a tough one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Third Intermission podcast. This is your boy Dave here. Follow us on the socials, and of course, you can get us wherever you get your podcast from. I'm not going to go into the too much into the intro. Of course, I got Avry and Marsha here. Right now, we're about 24 hours removed. Well, almost 24 hours removed from what is by far the biggest loss in Leafs history. Of course, we've endured some Leaf losses on some grand scales, but after last night, Leaf Nation is hurting right now. The hockey world is the sports world in general is absolutely taking full pleasure in the fact that the only hockey team to never win a playoff series against their playoff rival in 75 years it is basking in the glory of of Toronto's misery. Of course, you're also hearing that Drake is like basically getting torched by Kendrick left, right, and center. And of course, the Jays are terrible. TFC is terrible right now. The vibes are bad right now. The vibes are bad. My apologies. It's not 75 years, it's 65 years. But either way, it's pretty terrible right now. Avery, I know you're the most rational person here, so I'm just gonna get your thoughts while we get started here.
So first of all, I will give credit, Dave, to the Leafs coming back from being down 3-1 to force a game seven. But at the same time, I've said it before on this show, and I'll say it again. How many times is this core going to hit that brick wall of losing in round one or round two over and over and over and over again before you make massive changes, before you fix something, before you do something else? And it's clear that core, and also including Sheldon Keefe and Brendan Shanahan, because the entire setup keeps crashing out in that same round, that same spot. You're not getting past round two. You're not getting to a cup final. If it was the occasional out in the first round, mixed in with a few more playoff series wins, okay. But you're not even getting that. You're not even getting past step one. And that has to change. It has to. So at this point, of course, when the show goes up, we'll have more information. But at the time of this taping, I would be very shocked if MLSC and Brad Treliving don't embark on making this team look very different come in the fall of 2024.
Very much so. Marsha, I want to hear your thoughts on this before I go off.
I think people might think I'm crazy because of how calm I am. Uh, like honestly, for myself, not super catastrophic. There are things, but these are things that we have been saying for the past million years. Um, but also there is heavily the vibe that things are going to change within the next few days. So I'm kind of in like a wait and see type vibe. And then I think the reaction will come based off of what changes are made and how reasonable they are. Um, because this organization is known to do very stupid things at very stupid times. So I'm very curious as to what the off season will entail, what kind of words we'll get from the post media availability. When you have Keefe saying things like the Leafs opponents just know how to make the Leafs beat themselves, and then like people asking stupid questions like what injuries were you facing just after you lost a game seven, there is a lot of nonsense that needs to be curbed. We need to go about it the right way. And as fans, we can feel the feels, rightfully so. But I think in comparison to the past 3 years of playoffs, this game was not catastrophic, and I cherish that very dearly because it had the potential to be very, very bad with the last minute things that were happening that I'm still conspiracizing about, because the answers and the words that we're getting about, oh, Joe Wall was out because of tightness, or like there was an injury in game 6 and Samsonov knew he was ready at 2 p.m., but he only knew he was playing at 4 p.m. And like it's just a whole bunch of mishmash and no one's story is correct. So that's another set of nonsense that has to be dealt with. Sorry?
It's like the mathing in the situation.
No, for real. It's not. It's just a whole bunch of confusion, and I don't even think they know what their story is. And I've been saying this the whole season. There is a disconnect in whatever this kind of living hockey that was being played this season. There was a disconnect from the top down, and this is why the season played out the way that it did. On top of TFC actually winning their game yesterday, which was extremely rude of them. You've been losing the entire time and you had to win the same day that the Leafs were playing an elimination game. Die.
Listen, you gotta blame Major League Soccer for that one. That's not on MLSE at that point. You blame Major League Soccer.
I know.
Major League Soccer and their godforsaken fucking Apple TV fucking subscription and go suck themselves sour for the next 4 hours. Like
that, and then I've been saying it on Twitter, I've been saying it in the group chat, I've been saying it out into the universe. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, MLSE does not have a sports psychologist on their staff. They needed one on their staff the second that Mitch Marner and William Nylander got drafted. Because why are we still seeing the repercussions of trauma manifesting in years and years and years of playoff losses? Who's talking about it to them?
Agreed.
Because it doesn't seem like it's anyone if it's the same thing happening over and over and over again. And we need to get over those humps before we can expect to go farther in the playoffs.
I fully agree. I fully agree. Oh boy. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go off, I'd like to preface this. The opinions expressed on the Toronto Third Intermission podcast are solely those of the individual and not reflective of the podcast or say any entity that is currently say reflected upon, aka Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment Incorporated, Rogers Communications Incorporated, Bell Communications Enterprises Inc., the City of Toronto, and various other enterprises in which we talk shit about. Straightforward. This is just coming from the mouth of David Barnett. Toronto is a fucking terrible sports city, and I'm going to say this right now. The Leafs have not done shit, and I mean shit, since 2002. You won one playoff series, you have an MVP trophy, a whole bunch of Rocket Richards, and maybe like a Selke. But other than that, the Leafs are fucking terrible. We have gone through 5, if not 6 head coaches within the last 20 years. One of which is now passed away, and he got us to our last conference final. The other is now coaching a team that is currently in the conference finals, or no, that has been to the Stanley Cup finals. The other two, one is coaching in Europe right now. The other one, we don't know where he is. The last two, one of which is more than likely gone at this point. The other basically gave advice to Jim Montgomery on Saturday night against the Leafs, and just got off the Leafs books like earlier this year. Yes, folks, Mike Babcock. We have gone through 2, if not 3 captains in the last within the last 20-year span, in the last 2 decades, with Dion Phaneuf and John Tavares. We have gone through a rotating carousel of goaltenders: Vesa Toskala, Ed Belfort, Andrew Raycroft, Justin Pogge, James Reimer, Frederick Anderson, Jack Campbell, Ilya Samsonov, Joseph Wall, Dennis Hildeby. We've gone through players like Nick Foligno, Wayne Simmons, Thomas Plekanec, Brian Leach, Jeff Finger, Jason Blake, Joffrey Lupul, Nazem Kadri. Like I could go on and on. Like I'd be stuck here for hours. We've had by far the worst GM in Leafs history, and John Ferguson Jr., who I will never forgive to this day. We brought Cliff Fletcher back from the dead just to fix things, and then he disappeared. Dave Nonis needed to be shot out of a cannon. We had Brian Burke for a hot minute. We had a great guy in Kyle Dubas, and now we have Brad Treliving. We've had maybe two, or if not three, if not four presidents in the last 20 years. Brendan Shanahan, Brian Burke, Ken Dryden. I forget who else is involved in that situation. But yet still, the remaining thing that has always been constant is the fact that the Toronto Maple fucking Leafs cannot win a fucking playoff series within the last 20 years. The one exception, obviously, was last year when we beat Tampa in 6 games. So I'm going to retract that for a second. One playoff series win in 20 years. We have been to the playoffs 7, if not 8 times within the last 10 years after going on a 9-year drought or on a 9-season drought. Lost to Boston 4 times, lost to Washington once, lost to Montreal in epic fashion, got clapped by Tampa Bay in 7 games, and then clapped them right back, only to get clapped by another Florida team. We lose, quite frankly, one of the easiest roulette fucking wheels in the Stanley Cup qualifiers to a team that had basically like we had them by the throat and decided to lay a fucking egg during a pandemic. I'm at my wit's end. It's insane to think that doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over the fuck again will get us to a point where we think it's going to get us somewhere. At this rate, the insanity behind all of this needs to effectively change immediately. And I mean immediately. Larry Tannenbaum and Keith Pelly have a very significant job to do right now. Now, of course, you are going to hear reports of a renovation happening at Scotiabank Arena. That's already in the works. You're going to have a significant renovation of this Leafs team. That's already in the pipeline as we speak. By the time this episode drops, Keith will have already been on the unemployment line. Shanahan might be next to go. Most of the management core in Leafs Nation might be gone. Who knows? I'd be surprised if, I'll be surprised if the nuclear missile that is like what's about to come over the next few days doesn't affect everybody in any way, in some way, shape, or form. This is an extremely tough time for the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club. Fans are broken, including yours truly. They're also angry, desolate, disappointed, and just flat out just done. Yes, the loyalty on this team will never waver. The loyalty to this team will never waver. However, given the fact that what happened last night in Boston is a clear indication that nothing is working, something has to give now. Who stays and who goes? I'm not so sure. eventually we're going to have a massive vent session about this in the coming weeks when the playoffs are done, and we can have like a full panel for this. But it is essentially the most heart-shattering thing to see so many teams thrive, and yet Toronto wants to seem to go nowhere because of the fact of how much money it makes. And that's embarrassing in itself. The fact that the Raptors couldn't get anywhere over the last couple seasons because of injuries and the fact that, say, some people just wanted to essentially destroy the goodwill that the Raptors had, especially after winning a championship. And then of course you have those, I guess, waste of organs out there who feel that they could trade the whole Raptors organization for having Austin Matthews on a lifetime contract or erasing the 2019 NBA championship. A very hard fought trophy, a very hard fought championship, I might add. Have that erased for a Stanley Cup, which clearly shows the racial priorities of the city and the racial priorities of, say, other beat writers within Toronto sports. Yes, I'm referring to a certain someone who I'm going to keep nameless because they don't deserve our time right now. You have a baseball team with a manager with a manager that has his head so far up his ass every time he shits he eats, and he's probably doing it through a computer screen with the amount of analytics that he utilizes on a regular basis, basically turning a great franchise into a software-based joke. I don't understand why I'm sounding like Sid Six-Year-Old right now, but like this is just terrible. And then of course we have our favorite resident light skin, basically getting bodied by a Compton motherfucker. Toronto's in shambles. Let's not mince words. Toronto's in shambles, especially when it comes to arts, entertainment, and as of right now, the sporting world. And it is high time something gets done about it. It's high time that, say, there are some actual creative minds that are strong enough to actually figure out what the fuck we're doing and actually come up with a competitive way to actually compete for championships and create long-lasting legacies in this city. This city used to be such a great city. Now it is just a rotting piece of shit with the CN Tower. And that hurts me to say that. Now, of course, we're not going to get into the whole social economic issues of what's going on with this with this city or what's going on with the province. That's a whole different ballpark in which I will probably get murdered for. But as of right now, I don't know. I like. I thought it was bad enough as it is when we lost against Montreal back in 2021. And I have been saying this for a very long time. Mitch Marner needed to be traded at that point in order to actually make something happen. But yet, everyone was defending him, saying, like, oh, the core four can do this. The core four can do this. And now look exactly where the fuck we are. And the only question I have to ask ourselves as Leafs fans is, what the fuck did we learn in this situation? What did we legitimately learn in this situation? Because it clearly looks like we didn't learn shit. So I don't know what's going to happen. I would love to see some change. I would love to actually see this team compete for a Stanley Cup down the road. But with the way things are going right this second, and Marsha and Avry, you can chime in at any time, but I do not believe, and I'm full-heartedly saying this right now, I do not believe that the Toronto Maple Leaf Hockey Club will ever win a Stanley Cup again within the next 20 years with the way it's currently going. Toronto has 7 years left on that Stanley Cup in which it will basically be erased from the minds uh, of hockey fans when the Stanley Cup gets presented in say 2031, because there's going to be a new ring replacement. And I don't think the Leafs organization realizes how serious this is, not only to their legacy, but to their longevity. Because if you want to end up like the Columbus Blue Jackets or the San Jose Sharks right now, or hell, even the Montreal Canadiens, even though they have 24 Stanley Cups to their name, and a Stanley Cup Finals appearance in high motherfucking definition, or 4K high definition right now. And until this team gets it, like I don't think they're going to do shit. And that is a very soul crushing thing to even realize. But I don't know. I don't know anymore. Avry, Marsha, go ahead. As I think my energy probably.
Well, I think your frustrations, Dave, reflect a lot of people who are in the province of Ontario, a lot of Leaf fans right now. And the big question really is, what's next? What do you do? How do you fix this? How do you right the ship? And really, I fully believe that Sheldon Keefe is taking this team as far as it can go. Some coaches can't get a team past round 1 or round 2. That it is what it is. Now, I've tweeted his name before. He's someone who I think should be getting a head coaching job in the NHL if he wants it. Very soon, because he has a very successful program in NCAA. But I think that David Carl should be your next option. That should be your next look. Don't look to recycle a name. Don't look to try and be all truculence. I firmly believe that he is the guy you need to bring in, someone who's worked well with young players, understands younger talent, and that's someone who I know Sheldon Keefe did, but point being is that this team needs a younger voice and not a recycled NHL voice. I think that this team needs David Carl behind the bench next season. Let's look at what he's done, winning again another championship at U of Denver.
That could be a situation for MLSC to look into. Obviously, the whole recycling of, like, say, Craig Berube or Bruce Boudreau or Dave Haxtell as potential ideas. I mean, they could be great in theory, but I don't think they're really great choices for this team, because all of them play very weird styles, or all of them have very weird systems. Now, does Berube have a cup to his name? Maybe.
That doesn't mean he's gonna get a cup in the future. The past is the past, my guy.
No. I'm aware of that. I'm not saying past like say past connotations lead to future past motives lead to future potentials in that situation. If I fuck that up, I really don't care. But
the sentiment was understood.
Yes, thank you. Avery, you're absolutely right. I mean, again, having a very young coach who actually has something that isn't archaic and isn't basically buried in 1950s style racism and ideal and collective thought thinking.
Wait, hold on. There's
yes, I know there's a lot with that statement.
No, not even that statement. It's just something that happened on ESPN. Oh, sorry, TNT.
What?
About Craig. He's on the panel with he who shall not be named and Anson and the other dude. Sorry, I don't watch TNT. Berube's on this panel with them, and the Demon Spawn told Craig Berube to stop chirping him, or I'm going to break the news that you're the new Leafs head coach. And like, terrible poker face.
Oh boy.
So it might actually, like, this is grain of salt. Person's reaction on TV to an offhand comment Could be fake. Could also be true. I don't know how to feel.
Oh boy. Toronto's worst kept secret. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is gonna be a very frustrating few weeks.
I just wanted them to poach Jim Montgomery, bro. I've wanted that man since he left Dallas. He's the kind of coach that we need for this team.
No, I fully agree with you. Like here's my thing though. Like, I mean, Toronto obviously has to make up with Boost Boudreaux because apparently that's the only other demon that they need to slay before slaying Boston fully. And Toronto actually had the chance to do it this year. I don't know what stopped them at this point,
Mm-hmm.
which is absolutely outright insane. But now it's like you're looking at this whole situation. It's like, okay, outside of a coaching change and outside of like say basically a president of operations and an alternate governor that needs to be like basically dumped into the Atlantic Ocean, or at least say sent back to the Department of Player Safety, because we all know that circus clown or whatever the fuck his name is. I don't even remember what his name is. That's how bad he is. But yes, George Peros, that fucking circus clown. At least there'll be some respectability when it comes to the Department of Player Safety. At least players won't be actually dying in that situation. So, I mean, you bring Brendan Shanahan back to the office, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, there is a lot of shit that needs to be fixed. Now, there's talk of Marner being traded for a decent defenseman, like a top.
That comes up every like 2 seconds.
Yes,
with this team.
Yes, of course. There's talk of letting Samsonov walk. There's talk of telling Domi and Bertuzzi to make like Michael Jackson and beat it. There's talk of re-signing Edmondson. Like there's talk of like say, oh, Matthews, Nye, Nylander, and Wall should be considered untouchables. Yeah, the other 19 can basically fuck off at this point. There are so many things speculating at this point. It's like, okay, you can't really pick out like, okay, what's actually considered legitimate anymore and what's considered to be just fan fiction, so to speak, with this team. Ideally, at this point, whatever the Leafs decide to do, we're all going to just sit back and enjoy the ride because that's all we can do at this point. Either that or we can change the channel and find another team. But we all know nobody's going to want to do that. So, I don't know. Like Avery, you asked earlier, what's next for this team? How about finding a hockey mind that actually wants to fucking win a Stanley Cup instead of just looking at it like, okay, how can I appease Rogers and get some of that Rogers family money? Because this is absolutely asinine at this point. We also need an alternate governor and a Leafs president that's actually willing to just let the GM handle his business. You know, Treliving, I don't trust Treliving as far as I could throw him.
Until his father is not the person that owns Boston Pizza named after Boston Bruins from a guy who was the biggest Bruins stan and not a cop, we won't be getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Double-edged sword.
I mean, would I like to see him fired? Maybe, but he's only been in the job for a year. You can't really just say, "Oh, okay, well, you know, like I hired a new manager, and you know it's basically his fault. Let's throw him under the bus." Like that would be violently stupid. At least on the
No. Not saying it's his fault. I'm just saying he went in like
with what he had.
no, too hard to like. I'm thinking Target's entrance into Canada is exactly what Bradshaw Living did. Try to change everything and think that a market would love and adapt to him without testing the waters and said, yeah, I know this is the style of hockey that you were used to playing, but this is the style of hockey that I like to ice. So just deal with it and figure it out. Like, if he took the season to say, this is how I want to introduce some of these things, and this is how we can blend the two things to test out our own new style. And if the team felt like it was something that they had built together, I think there would be a lot more trust and a lot more execution in a more successful way. I think people were butting heads and like there's a lot of confusion and people can't be straight. Like, yes, there were people that were excelling really well and we had some really cool milestones, but it was just a lot of question marks for me watching the moves that were made in the off season and during the season and watching them be executed on a game to game basis.
I said this previously. Losing Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Achari and Luke Shen during the offseason really did damage to this team. Re-signing Samsonov was a great idea. Don't get me wrong, but after he had suffered what he was going through during the regular season, and Joseph Wall had to come in, and then Martin Jones basically came back. Like, also, why the fuck didn't we put Martin Jones in it if we knew we were going to deal with this? You know,
I don't know. I literally said this yesterday. We would have been better off doing that because there just was something that was off the entire game, and I don't think Samsonov had recovered from his atrocious performance in games 3 and 4.
no, no, like I fully agree with you. And like that last goal, that overtime winner from David Pasternak, that was a giant collective fuck up on everybody's part outside of Nylander. I'm sorry, but like the fact that Marner basically let him slide in over the blue line. Riley was basically walking with the skating with a stick in his hand. Labushkin was basically off daydreaming about cocaine or something. I don't know. And then Samsonov with bad puck tracking management mentally, leading to that nightmare of a series winner in literally under 2 minutes. You destroyed your season within 2 minutes in a game 7 in overtime. After losing maybe 3 straight seasons and what, having basically the biggest and most golden opportunity to knock off a team that essentially had the ability to blow a 3-1 lead the same way they did the last year. For you to actually fuck that up, there is no way, no reason, rhyme or reason, or say any other thing that you can say other than this team is basically fucked itself to the point where you gotta destroy everything. And oh boy, is it sad right now. It's absolutely sad. So the whole thing that I basically heard at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that was effectively scary in itself. Hearing that Joseph Wall was basically out. Some people were saying that he tweaked his knee at the end of game 6, making a save, and he was looking uncomfortable. That seems a little too convenient for me. hiding Matthew's status. That seemed a little too convenient for me. I wanted him to rest, knowing full well that we were going to go to Florida. Potentially go to Florida, excuse me. Because Toronto had been playing much better without Matthews on the ice. And don't get me wrong, like I love Austin, but I would
That's
have
nothing against him. They were just being lazy.
be like, it's kind of similar to Bob Myers rushing KD in during Game 5 of the NBA Finals, and then next thing you know, his Achilles pulls. His Achilles tears, and he's out for like a year and a half. That's essentially what it seemed like to me at that moment. Now, thank God Matthews didn't get injured. In fact, he ended up getting an assist back on Saturday. But the fact that there were no in-game adjustments or no strategic planning
No
on how to
surprises.
counterpunch Boston, basically whipping your ass from from pillar to post. It just seemed like an epic fail waiting to happen. Now, as Avery said at the top of the show, yes, commend them for fighting back from a 3-1 deficit. But we've seen the same story before on more than 2 separate occasions. At which point do you say, okay, you know what? Like, I'm fed up with this. Like, maybe we should try something different. Because we haven't swept a series since 2002, I believe. Avery, you might want to fact check that. The last time we won a Game 7 in overtime was 1993 when Nikolai Brashevsky tipped in a great point shot against the Detroit Red Wings. We haven't had a momentous goal scored since John Tavares' game winner in Game 6 against Tampa last year, or Matthew Knies' overtime goal in Game 5. And now Toronto is now hitting its 66th year in not winning a series against the Boston Bruins. And now Toronto's also hitting its 58th year in which they have not won a Stanley Cup. And they still can't seem to shake off the moniker that they got beaten by a Zamboni driver who works for them. I really don't know what else to say. I really don't know what else to say at this point.
And maybe it's at that. I
Yeah.
said it's a wait and see. And when the things come out, when we've had some time to breathe, we'll have more to say. There
Mm-hmm.
will be more to talk about, more to analyze, more to discuss. But right now, like, this is it. It's all we know. It's all we feel. It's all we see. It's all we've heard in post
Yeah.
game. You know, it
I
is
mean,
what it is.
the only the only series I'm excited for now is like Edmonton and Vancouver, and potentially Dallas and Colorado, or Vegas and Colorado. Like, the East can go fuck itself at this point. Like,
Except for Freddie Anderson.
okay, yes, granted.
But yeah, no, I was literally saying this yesterday with a friend. I like, what's the East Coast? What's the Eastern Conference? I don't know her. A West Coast team is winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. Now, this may excite Avery a little bit, but I feel like Edmonton is the only clear shot for the cup, at least from the Western Conference, outside of Vegas.
Dallas.
Wait, is anybody even watching the Game 7 between Vegas and Dallas right now?
I have it on
I
right
was
now.
watching it earlier. Yeah, I saw Wyatt Johnson score a goal. That was pretty damn nice. Love that kid. Excited for Dallas.
I was going to say, maybe we should be an Edmonton Oilers podcast at this point now.
Mhm.
I would make probably make Avery literally buy a new fedora tomorrow.
Well, you know what? You'd have a lot more peace, talking every week about Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. You have a lot more peace in
Listen,
your life.
listen, Daryl Cates does not deserve my time, my appreciation, my respect, or my. He can go fuck himself too.
Oh, and
Okay.
time of this taping. So it appears. Oh, nope. It appeared that Vegas had scored, but that was goals waved off. It appeared.
Oh,
Yeah, it appeared. William Karlsson had beaten Jake Ottinger, but nope.
Madness.
Wild.
Oh, madness.
Oh no, sorry, it's mid save. No, I thought for some reason it was a weird off goal. My bad. No, just a big save. But I did want to ask you, to bring some levity to the show. I want to ask the both of you. Saw the TNT panel. We don't know if that's confirmed yet on the Craig Berube to Toronto thing. But if not, I want to ask you both: who would be the funniest name to replace Sheldon Keefe?
Send Messiah Jerry to fix the fucking problem. I don't know.
Joffrey Lupo.
Wendell Clark.
That's
See, but
better.
that could be good though.
That's
Like
better.
good former players.
I mean, that's actually funny. That would be actually very funny if we were to see Wendell Clark as the new head coach.
Oh my god, wait, I don't know if y'all have seen there's this like Air Canada commercial and it's Dougie Gilmore in like a wig, a Hawaiian t-shirt, and a fake mustache. So like that version of Dougie specifically as the new Toronto head coach with the wig and the fake mustache and the Hawaiian t-shirt.
Hold on, here's another name. Matt Sundin, maybe.
I feel like that would be cool.
That's a name where I think it would be out of the blue. Other people would laugh. I think people would enjoy that more than laugh at. I think they would enjoy that one.
Breath of fresh air.
I think they would enjoy. I think
Oh my
think they
god,
would
Michael
enjoy.
Nylander.
Could you imagine
Have
Michael
like the Adam Lowry dad situation, you know?
Michael Nylander as head coach would be jokes. That would be funny.
Nah, Andrew Raycroft. Send him.
Andrew Raycroft.
Oh dear.
Nah, Jason Blake.
You know what will be fitting though? Andrew Raycroft, head coach, he gets fired, replaced by Tuukka Rask.
Stop.
Jesus Christ.
Missing a skate blade.
Wah, 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 wah. There you go.
Hey man, we could
every time he
Justin
walks onto
Pogge.
the bench, that sound plays.
Hey, we could also do Justin Pogge too.
Oh my goodness.
Personally speaking, if there's somebody else that wants to, be president of the Leafs, hell, make Mark Messier president of the Leafs at this point.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah. Who else would you throw in that position at this point? Because I don't know if any former players can actually do the job anymore.
So let me conspiracy theory for a little bit.
Yeah.
So Brendan Shanahan, bad. Kyle Dubas in Pittsburgh, bad. Brendan Shanahan, bad enough that he may potentially get fired in the next few days. Vacant position. And Kyle Dubas, when he was still in Toronto, wanted more power when it came to hockey. What is Kyle Dubas's current position in Pittsburgh? President of Hockey Operations and GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins. What if he is so bad that the Pittsburgh fans hate him so much that he leaves because now there's an opening for the Toronto Maple Leafs for President of Hockey Operations, the position that he basically wanted the whole time.
I mean, yeah, it could work. I mean, you could probably see Jason Spezza as head coach.
Do you see what I mean? You see? The conspiracy is theorying.
You have now tuned in.
Keith Pelly was already on the phone with Kyle
the second he got hired, you know?
Like actually,
No. That would be wild though. That I'd really just pull that out of nowhere. But like these are
I don't
true
know, man. Like,
statements.
like nothing is off the table at this point anymore.
Yeah,
Nothing is
because like
legitimately off the table anymore.
who are you going to put there? Are you going to leave it vacant temporarily?
No,
Are
like
you going to give Brad Treliving more power?
to see him as
Question mark, question mark, question mark.
great. I mean, to see him as president and GM of the Toronto Maple
No,
Leafs hockey club, like that's messed up in itself.
I'll cry.
Like his dad already owns Boston Pizza, so
Okay, hold on. Before we further this, does anyone else find the Boston Pizza commercials hilarious? Cheer with the fans that you normally hate against. Go Canada.
Jesus.
Those ads stink so bad because there's no way. You see how it comes out right before the Edmonton Vancouver series, and the last thing a Canucks fan want to do
Just
is
cheer for the Oilers.
the last thing, say example a neutral side. The last thing a Flames fan, a Leafs fan, a Habs fan, a Jets fan, a Sens fan would ever do is pick a side in Edmonton, Vancouver. They would rather cheer for a meteorite to take them out than cheer for either team win a cup or advance.
Agreed.
Like
Oh,
the Canada Unity thing. The Canada Unity thing is at least a Canadian team won the cup. It doesn't exist. It does not exist.
But did it ever?
I don't even know when. You're right, Dave. I don't even know when it started. I'm not sure when this whole bringing the cup back to Canada. Every team has a bunch of Canadians. The cup is here every summer, every single year.
I think it probably started back in like say 2004 when Calgary made the final.
I think so.
But like to be fair, the Sea of Red was one of the most popping things in hockey, and I will genuinely argue with that.
And for the record, some of y'all daddies and mommies are out there getting wild, and they're probably glad that happened before social media was a big thing.
Trust me. Trust me. Like, yo, a lot of babies would have been made if Calgary had actually beaten Tampa Bay in game 6 and that goal went in. I don't give a fuck. But Martin Gelano was robbed that year. 2-2s. Oh no, sorry, wait. Let's keep it a buck right here. Jerome McGinley was robbed.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I say this as a black hockey fan. Jerome McGinley was robbed because it was racist and look. Nah, I ain't trying to be on some Black Panther shit and be like, listen, Jerome McGinley was robbed because of the fact that he was a biracial angel. And, no, I'm playing. But
the kufi is on Dave's head too tight.
that is terrible.
Yo, this doctor Umar Barnett here tapping in.
I beg your pardon.
Brother, ooh.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find the Leafs losing suspicious? Either way. The episode's gone off the rails a little bit, but you know what? Like I'm just steering into it, you know. Like if
and it's all Drake's fault.
You know, this is why we as Canadians can't have nothing no more, man. Black Canadians especially. Like fuck. You know, Drake, you just had to mention the words. Who's the big three? Are we the big three? Is it K Dot? Is it Aubrey or me? No, I'm sorry. I know it was J. Cole who said it, but Drake, you just had to make first person shooter and then try and reply after Kendrick had said, "Motherfuck the big three, nigga, it's just Big Me." Like, oh boy.
His response wasn't even that good.
The
person is still actively scribing the lyrics, and I haven't listened to it yet. But the parts that I'm reading that they finished scribing, deny. Didn't actually respond to anything.
Exactly.
Shame.
And then on top of that, this whole like, folks, I know this is a hockey show, but like, yo, this is a culture thing right now.
Black culture.
Yes, yes, it is. The fact that Kendrick has now made a diss track as a dance track is even more fucked up.
It actually goes kind of hard. I'm not even gonna lie.
What was it? Was it Euphoria or Not Like Us?
Not like us.
Oh my god! You know, I haven't listened to either of those disses yet, and I really need to.
Man, Meet the Grams. That one is just see, but the thing that I love about Kendrick, because I'm a very I have to read the lyrics to fully grasp what you're saying and like fully understand the context of your words. I'm reading Kendrick's lyrics and you hear his flow in his words
You can also hear the venom
in your head, you know? And then Drake just teases me, bro.
Yo, honestly, like, here's the thing. I used to mess with that dude heavy, but like his earlier shit, his earlier mixtapes were like 10 times better than half the shit he's putting out now. And I'll be
Yeah.
honest, like, what was it? What was it? No, it wasn't started from the bottom. What was that one album with the clouds and shit all over it, and him facing like basically some direction. It was like right after
Just
Take.
hold on.
No. It was no. That track was on the album, but what was the album?
Hold on.
As Avery's out here wondering, like, yo, like, I thought it was a hockey show, not a hip hop show.
What do you, who said that? This show, look, I never said that. This show always goes off the rails every single week.
Oh, nothing was the same. Sorry. Nothing was the same.
Yeah, nothing was the same. I feel like after that, like, yo, it just the fall off was real.
I mean, yes and no. I think the full fall off was after Views because summer 2016, there were some heavy bangers from this man. But
Summer 16 was a real track.
But after that,
Jeez. Like,
no.
And like, folks, like, I know some of y'all listen to hip hop out there, so I'm actually gonna ask this real quick. Like, yo, like, y'all knew, like, say, if there was a decent hip hop album that would be played in any barn right now, it would either have to be 2014 Forest Hills Drive, Good Kid, Mad City, Nothing Was the Same, anything by A Tribe Called Quest or The Roots, or basically, like, say, any good album from, like, say, 20 from between 2008 and 2014, with the exception of Mac Miller, because that album should never have won a Grammy in the first place. But yeah, I'd have to say, like, there are like some certified hood classics that you could play on a hockey rink while in other words, you could be skating while black and just bump a good Kendrick while scoring some goal. I would fully agree with that. As twisted and as gone off the rails as the show has gone today, like, I agree. A good, like, that would be a good hip hop album to actually go play some puck to. But then again, Avery, what would you do in this situation?
Hang on, Dave, say it again.
So, again, I'm gonna tie this to hockey and hip hop culture, but like, is there a good hip hop album within the last 20 years that you would throw on in any regular barn and like literally score some goals to?
In the last 20, out of that, that's a good question. I generally don't know. I'm not musically inclined enough to have one album, because I've listened to a full album of any rap artist in a few years. So I'm gonna pass the one off to both you and Marsha, because I'm not that musically inclined enough to give you a good answer, Dave.
Marsha, I'll go with you.
Okay, I fully want to say Macklemore, because he gives the vibe of like socially acceptable hip hop rap music in the hockey world. Even though Ben's on some real good vibes though. He knows his shit and he's like good politically and he knows his place in the world of rap. So I digress. Um so he would still be a good fun option. But if I had to like really, really, really think about it, just score some goals too. See, like you don't. It would probably be childish.
The what was it?
Cause it,
Do you see the album?
yeah, like it's vibey
I would fully agree with that.
or like controversialness aside, like Kanye music.
Which one though? 808s and Heartbreak or my beautiful dark twisted fantasy?
That's the thing, though.
Right? Like, yeah, that is the thing.
um,
Or like even Kid Cudi's Man on the Moon.
yeah. Oh, Cuddy would be a good person because he's like super underrated. I think super super underrated.
Yeah. Before
Honestly, I think
we,
it's got a good flow.
yeah.
Can't go wrong.
Before we continue, folks, just at the time of this recording, Dallas will be taking on Colorado in
Hell
the Western
yeah.
Conference semifinals. There will be a brand new Stanley Cup champion in 2024.
Hell yeah.
Toronto Maple Leafs fucking again.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, yeah, Man on the Moon would definitely be a good one for me, at least, or Good Kid, Mad City, or maybe even 2014 Forest Hill Drives
Yeah. Yeah.
or Forest Hill Drive. Like that mixtape alone was actually one of the most proper mixtapes you will ever hear. Now, don't get it twisted. If you're reading this, it's too late. Also, I did have some bangers, but I don't think it's like good hockey vibes. It's more that was more early Toronto Raptor vibes at that point. But or sorry, early We the North vibes at that point. But folks, we have gone off the rails on this episode, and I want to say thank you for letting us go in this direction here. But you know what? Like it's good cultural debate, right? It is helping me. Well, it is helping us get rid of the whole ideology of wanting to give the Leafs a defaz right now. And you know, it's allowing us to do what we wanted to do in the first place, and that is combine Black culture and hockey. And you know what? Like this episode kind of really just does that. So you know, thank you for letting us vibe out with that. Okay, so now that the NHL semifinals have been set, Avry, Marsha, I'm gonna ask your predictions real quick. Who goes to the Eastern Conference Final? Boston, Florida, Rangers, Carolina.
No one.
I mean, in an ideal world, it would be no one, because it's like if it ain't the Leafs, fuck anybody, fuck everybody. But given the
Yeah.
options that we have,
Like as much as I love Carolina, it'd probably be Rangers, Florida.
repeat of
Um,
1996, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And then I think the West will be Edmonton, Dallas.
Avery?
I'm gonna go with the Rangers and Boston out of the East, and I'm going to go Edmonton, Dallas in the West.
I would like to see like an original six conference final for like the first time since 2011, maybe.
Ish.
Because like the last time two original six teams faced off in a conference final or even a Stanley Cup final was like what 2013 between Boston and Chicago. since then, like what Detroit hasn't. Detroit faced Chicago back in like 2009. There's a whole deep dive into everything, but
Yeah, that was Detroit, Pittsburgh. Those back years.
yeah, yeah, of course. Um, so for me, coming out of the East, unfortunately, this is gonna break my heart in saying this. Florida and the Rangers. If Boston can manage to find a way to repeat the same magic that they had from 2013 and make the Stanley Cup final to take on like say four of the most decent powerhouses in the West in Dallas, Colorado, Vancouver, or Edmonton. Um, I would like to see it happen, but for me, Rangers, Florida, probably in the East. In the West, I'm saying, yeah, I'm going with the consensus. Dallas and Edmonton. If Vancouver can actually find a way to actually break a curse, and basically shut off the moniker that they're basically living in the shadow of Edmonton. Um, Sky's the limit in that situation for them. Maybe Vancouver can actually take it all this time if they're willing to do so. Uh, Ideally, I can't wait for the Western Conference Series to start. Um, Maybe we'll just glance at Boston, Florida. We'll do a couple spaces here and there, but I think we're all pretty much at the point where it's just like, yeah, uh, screw hockey. Let's go with pickleball. So, anyways, folks, we're gonna cut this one. Want to say thank you for letting us grace the space in between your head top. Um, this has been a very tough episode to actually record, considering all we want to do is basically bash the Leafs right now for basically not doing their job. For one, and two, it should be a big vent session, but like we're gonna wait until everybody's here to do that. So you'll be hearing us cuss off this team within the next few days, um, especially on Twitter. So be prepared for that. Want to say thank you to Avry and Marsha for coming through. Obviously, both of these folks have very busy schedules, but of course, I appreciate the fact that y'all have come through and basically let talk puck and talk nonsense this evening. So it really helps. On behalf of the crew, just want to say, like, of course, we hope you enjoy this episode. We know we have a few things that need to get cut off, so this episode might be a little bit shorter than normal. Of course, once again, I'm signing off for the evening. So you can follow us at the socials at Toronto Third, both on X and on Instagram. And you can get us wherever you get your podcasts. That's Spotify, Apple, Podbean, Google, iHeartRadio, or basically just carrier pigeon at this point.
The birds work for the bourgeoisie.
Exactly. All right, until next time, folks. Deuces.